If you've ever poured your heart into growing tomatoes only to end up with weak plants, yellowing leaves, or disappointing harvests, you're not alone. Tomatoes are the crown jewel of the garden, but they're also one of the first crops to show stress when something is off. The good news? Most of these problems aren't about bad luck. They're about what's happening beneath the soil. Today, we're going to dig into the root fix that can turn struggling tomato plants into thriving, fruit-loaded vines. Picture this. You plant your seedlings in the spring, water faithfully, maybe even feed them with store-bought fertilizer, and still the plants look pale, spindly, or curl their leaves at you as if protesting your care. It's frustrating. Some gardeners even give up, assuming they don't have the green thumb. But the truth is, tomatoes are incredibly sensitive indicators of root health. If the roots can't breathe, can't spread, or can't access nutrients, the entire plant suffers no matter how much effort you put in above ground. Think of tomato roots as a hidden engine. Strong, deep, and well-fed roots give the plant stability, water, and nutrients. Weak roots, on the other hand, lead to yellowing leaves, blossom drop, cracking fruit, and stunted growth. What many gardeners miss is that the majority of tomato problems, whether it's pests, diseases, or poor fruit set, can be traced back to stressed or underdeveloped roots. When the roots are happy, tomatoes can fight off pests naturally, resist fungal diseases, and set more flowers that turn into juicy red fruit. In short, your soil and your roots are where the magic happens. So, let's break down a few reasons your tomatoes may not be thriving. First up, compacted soil. Roots actually need oxygen just as much as water, and if you've got heavy, clay-packed ground, it pretty much suffocates them. Without those little air channels, roots stay shallow, and your plant really struggles, especially during heat or drought. Second, there's overwatering or poor drainage. Tomatoes don't like, wet feet. If your soil stays soggy, the roots can rot and the plant basically drowns. Third, nutrient lockup. Sometimes it isn't about not using enough fertilizer, but more about the soil chemistry. If you overuse synthetic feeds, salts can build up, locking essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium out of reach. This leads to classic problems like blossom end rot and curled leaves. And fourth, transplant shock. Tomatoes often sulk when their roots are disturbed or when they're moved from a pot to the ground without proper conditioning. So what's the root fix? It comes down to building soil that roots love to explore. Here are the practices that make all the difference. Start with deep planting. Unlike most vegetables, tomatoes can grow new roots along their buried stems. When you plant, bury at least 2/3 of the stem underground. Those extra roots create a powerful foundation. Next, focus on aeration and drainage. Add organic matter like compost, shredded leaves, or even rotted wood chips to break up heavy soils and hold just the right amount of moisture. Think of it like fluffing up a pillow. The roots need soft spaces to stretch into. Another key is root-friendly companions. Planting basil or marigolds nearby not only deters pests, but also creates a healthier microclimate around the tomato roots. Then there's microbial life. Roots don't feed on fertilizer directly. They rely on a whole underground network of bacteria, fungi, and worms to unlock those nutrients. Adding compost tea, worm castings, or mycorrhizal inoculants, well, that really supercharges the soil food web, allowing roots to access more minerals naturally. Finally, avoid overfeeding with synthetic fertilizers. They may give a temporary boost, but honestly, they disrupt microbial balance and can even burn delicate roots. Instead, go for slow-release organic amendments like bone meal for calcium, kelp for trace minerals, and compost for balanced nutrition. I once had a row of tomato plants that just refused to take off. Thin stems, pale leaves, and almost no flowers. Instead of dumping more fertilizer on them, I stepped back and rebuilt the soil. I added worm castings, mulched with straw to keep the roots cool, and watered with a diluted compost tea. Within 3 weeks, those plants had thickened, darkened, and begun flowering like crazy. The harvest turned from a near disaster into one of my best seasons. That's the power of root health. It's not a flashy quick fix, but once you see it in action, you'll never garden the same way again. If your tomatoes aren't thriving, don't just look at the leaves or the fruit. The secret is underground. Strong roots mean strong plants, and strong plants mean baskets of juicy homegrown tomatoes all summer long. So this season, give your roots the care they deserve: deep planting, living soil, good drainage, and gentle organic feeding. Your plants will reward you with vigor, resilience, and harvests you'll be proud to share. And remember, gardening isn't about perfection. It's about learning, adapting, and building a deeper connection with the living soil beneath your feet. If you found this guide helpful, subscribe to Gentle Herb Living for more natural gardening tips, compost hacks, and soil secrets. Share this video with a fellow gardener who's been struggling with tomatoes. They'll thank you when their harvest comes in heavy.